Today's topic is Carl Jung, the collective unconscious, and the deeper layers of the human mind. Carl Jung was one of the most fascinating thinkers in the history of psychology. His work sits somewhere between science, philosophy, mythology, and spirituality. When you read Jung's books, it often feels less like reading a psychology textbook and more like exploring a map of the human soul. Many people first hear Jung's name because of his relationship with Sigmund Freud. In the early 1900s, Freud and Jung worked closely together. Freud even considered Jung his intellectual successor, but their ideas about the human mind eventually diverged in a very dramatic way. Freud believed that human behavior was mostly shaped by repressed desires, especially sexual and aggressive impulses. Jung agreed that the unconscious mind was important, but he believed Freud's model was far too limited. For Jung, the human mind was not just a storage space for repressed memories. It was something much deeper, older, and more mysterious. Jung believed that the human psyche had layers. At the surface, we have what Jung called the conscious mind. This is the part of the mind that we experience in everyday life. It includes our thoughts, our decisions, our memories, and our sense of identity. The center of this conscious layer is what Jung called the ego. The ego is the part of the mind that says I. It is our personal identity, the sense that we are a separate individual moving through the world. But Jung believed that the ego is only a very small part of the psyche. Beneath the conscious mind lies the personal unconscious. The personal unconscious contains forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, and experiences that we are not currently aware of. Many of these elements once belonged to our conscious life, but were pushed out of awareness over time. For example, childhood experiences, emotional wounds, or uncomfortable memories may disappear from conscious thought, but still influence our behavior. According to Jung, the unconscious mind is constantly communicating with us. It communicates through dreams, through symbols, through emotional reactions, through creativity and imagination. But Jung believed there was something even deeper than the personal unconscious. This is where his most famous idea appears. Jung proposed the existence of what he called the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is not formed through personal experience. Instead, Jung believed it is inherited. In other words, every human being is born with certain psychological structures already present within the mind. These structures are not memories of specific events. Instead, they are patterns. They are templates of human experience. Jung called these patterns archetypes. Archetypes are universal symbolic structures that appear across cultures, religions, myths, and dreams. For example, if you look at ancient mythology from different parts of the world, you will often see very similar characters and stories. There is often a heroic figure who goes on a journey. There is often a wise old guide who offers knowledge. There is often a dark antagonist representing chaos or destruction. There are mother figures, tricksters, divine children, and mysterious shadowy forces. What fascinated Jung was that these patterns appear everywhere. Ancient Greek mythology contains them. Norse mythology contains them. Hindu mythology contains them. Native American myths contain them. And even modern films and stories follow the same structures. For Jung, this was not a coincidence. He believed these repeating patterns came from the deep structure of the human psyche. One of the most important archetypes Jung described is the shadow. The shadow represents the hidden aspects of our personality. These are the parts of ourselves that we prefer not to acknowledge. The shadow may include anger, jealousy, fear, selfishness, or desires that conflict with our self-image. Most people try to ignore these aspects of themselves, but Jung believed that ignoring the shadow actually gives it more power. When the shadow remains unconscious, it often appears in indirect ways. We may project it onto other people, seeing in them the qualities that we refuse to recognize in ourselves. Psychological growth, according to Jung, requires confronting the shadow, not destroying it, not suppressing it, but integrating it. Another important archetype Jung described is the anima and the animus. The anima represents the feminine dimension within the male psyche, while the animus represents the masculine dimension within the female psyche. Jung believed that psychological balance requires recognizing these inner opposites. If someone rejects these inner qualities, the psyche becomes divided and unstable. But when these elements are acknowledged and integrated, the personality becomes more complete. Jung also believed that dreams are one of the most direct ways to observe the unconscious mind. In his famous book, Man and His Symbols, Jung explains that dreams communicate in symbolic language rather than logical language. When we dream, the unconscious mind does not speak through sentences or arguments. Instead, it speaks through images, through stories, through symbols. For example, many people dream about falling, flying, exploring unknown places, or encountering mysterious figures. For Jung, these dream symbols are not random. They are messages from the unconscious mind. Sometimes these symbols connect to personal experiences, but sometimes they seem much older, almost mythological. Many people report dreams containing archetypal figures such as wise guides, dark enemies, divine children, or ancient temples. These dream patterns fascinated Jung because they resembled mythological stories from cultures all over the world. In Jung's view, this was evidence that the human mind contains structures that go far beyond individual experience. Another key concept in Jung's psychology is individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming psychologically whole. According to Jung, most people spend their early lives building an identity that fits into society. We develop careers, relationships, beliefs, and roles. But eventually, many people experience a deeper psychological question. Who am I really? At this stage, the unconscious mind may begin to reveal itself more strongly. People may experience powerful dreams, creative impulses, symbolic visions, or periods of deep introspection. For Jung, these moments are invitations from the psyche to begin the process of individuation. Individuation involves integrating the different parts of the self, the ego, the shadow, the unconscious mind, and the deeper archetypal patterns of the psyche. The goal is not perfection. The goal is wholeness. Jung believed that a fully developed personality is not someone who has eliminated all darkness, but someone who has become aware of their inner complexity. Interestingly, Jung's ideas have become very relevant again in modern discussions about consciousness. Many people who explore altered states of consciousness report encountering archetypal imagery. They describe visions of ancient symbols, mythological beings, or universal patterns that seem to exist beyond individual memory. These experiences have led some researchers and philosophers to revisit Jung's theories about the deep structure of the mind. However, Jung himself was very cautious about exploring the unconscious too quickly. He believed that entering the unconscious mind without preparation could be psychologically overwhelming. Instead, Jung recommended gradual exploration through dreams, reflection, art, and therapy. For Jung, the unconscious mind was not something to conquer. It was something to understand, something to dialogue with, something to integrate. Today, Carl Jung's ideas continue to influence many fields: psychology, philosophy, literature, film, religious studies, and discussions about consciousness itself. Many modern storytellers unknowingly use Jungian archetypes when creating characters and narratives. The hero's journey, the wise mentor, the dark antagonist, the transformation of identity. These patterns appear again and again because they resonate with deep psychological structures within the human mind. In a sense, Jung believed that mythology is not just ancient storytelling. It is the language of the psyche. It is the way the unconscious mind expresses itself across generations. And perhaps this is why Jung's ideas remain so powerful even today, because they suggest that beneath our individual experiences lies something much deeper, a shared psychological inheritance, a symbolic language that humanity has been speaking for thousands of years. The collective unconscious, according to Jung, reminds us that the human mind is not just a personal phenomenon. It is also part of a much larger story, a story that connects mythology, dreams, culture, and consciousness itself. And when we begin to explore these deeper layers of the psyche, we may discover that the mind is far more mysterious than we ever imagined.